This is everyone's war.
The home front is not a geographical location, but the collective efforts of the civilian citizens of a nation at war. What happened on the home front during World War I had tremendous influence over what happened on the battlefield. In this documentary, we will examine several aspects of the home front that played major roles in the war: technological development, women, resource distribution, and propaganda. World War I saw the first massive movement to employ science and technology for purely militaristic reasons, leading some historians to call it the Second Industrial Revolution. World War I was so deadly primarily because it saw the usage of 19th century tactics combined with 20th century weapons. Fritz Haber gained international notoriety after World War I for his invention of chlorine gas in 1915, which is estimated to have killed over 1 million men on the battlefield. However, not all the inventions on the home front were made to kill. Marie Curie of France developed the first portable X-ray, which replaced the bulky ones that existed and allowed for faster diagnoses on the front, saving many lives. She personally installed them in the cars and drove some of them to the front herself and worked there with her 17-year-old daughter Irene to treat patients. Women played major roles in the production of munitions and food, both of which are essential in supporting a nation at war. Women who worked in munitions factories often worked in terrible, life-threatening conditions due to the nature of the production processes and of the materials that they handled. These women became known as canneries because their skin often turned yellow from overexposure to TNT. It is estimated that over 400 women died in British factories alone. Ethel May Dean was a British civilian munitions worker at the Woolwich Arsenal in London during the war. Before the war, she worked at a variety of menial jobs in order to support her poor family. When the war started, she left her husband, the Duke of Bedford, to go work at the Woolwich Arsenal. At the arsenal, Dean and her co-workers measured TNT, filled shells, and did other such jobs for the arsenal. All the while, they were surrounded by volatile materials and were thus subjected to strict rules and constant examinations.
Everything that powder touches goes yellow. All the girls' faces were yellow, all wearing their mouths. They had their own canteen, everything was yellow.
Despite these dangers, whether to support their families or their nation, women from every country eagerly took up jobs in munitions factories. These women are the unsung heroes of their countries, risking their lives every day to aid their country's efforts. Armies need a lot of food, money, and other resources to keep them in fighting shape, and their huge drain on resources affected the home front heavily. Rationing at the home front, which was introduced by Allied countries early in the war, was among the reasons for Allies' capabilities to stay in the war and eventually gain victory. Germany, however, had no such rationing legislature, causing their battlefronts to go hungry and malnourished. Food, however, wasn't the only commodity that was rationed during the war. Coal and oil, which were among other resources that were rationed, were just as important as food to the front. In the United States, for example, to ensure the adequate production and delivery of coal and oil, the American Fuel Administration was established on August 23, 1917. The first few weeks of the Great War saw the deaths of thousands of young men. By the end of the war, these numbers had climbed into the millions. The leaders of every single country that fought in the war saw grief and anger grip their nations and foresaw the consequences of an internal revolt against the war. To quell any such disturbances and to garner national support for a costly war, the governments employed their most powerful weapon: words. In order to maintain control on propaganda throughout Europe, one of the British government's first actions during World War I was to cut Germany's undersea communication cables, allowing Britain to influence the masses of Europe faster than anyone could. Governments went to great lengths to ensure that their people saw nothing negative about the war, even going so far as to form secret societies dedicated to censorship. Propaganda had more power than any machine gun or artillery shell, and its influence on the home front could decide the war. The home front was arguably the most crucial battlefield in the war. What happened on the home front affected the nation as a whole and could make or break an army. It was an inspiring display of national solidarity at a time when people's faith in war and each other was being put to the ultimate test.